Welcome to Step 5 of the 10 steps of the number one trusted first-time homebuyer system in the U.S. Step 5 is saving money. Now, how do you balance saving your money while you're paying off your debt? And then the big question, how much money do you actually need to save for the down payment? And what will the total closing costs that you need to bring, what are those going to be? Let's get into all of it.
How to Buy a Home educates, protects, and connects first-time homebuyers to qualified vetted realtors in their area. Whether you're looking for DIY information or step-by-step guidance, How to Buy a Home is the number one resource for first-time homebuyers.
Hey, what's happening, my How to Buy a Homies? I'm David Sidoni, and this is Step 5, saving money for your home purchase. Saving for trying to buy a home and figuring out how much you need, that might be one of the biggest reasons people put off building a plan for their own home ownership. There's so much misinformation about how much you really need that many people incorrectly assume that number, it's just way out of their reach, so they lose hope. And in fact, according to NerdWallet, in a very recent survey, 62% of Americans still think that you need a 20% down payment. They think it's required. That is so wrong. Last year, the average down payment, and this is just for the first-time home buyers, their average down payment was between 8 and 9%, with many of them using 3.5% or 5%. So this episode is really necessary. We're going to go over two major things today. How much money do you really need for you to actually go out there and buy a home? And number two, we're going to go over some tools and tips and techniques that are going to help you with your saving. All right, saving money means you need a number, so let's start with some math. This is an incredibly basic formula, but it's something that can at least give you a guideline so you can set your savings goal. Now, in the playbook episodes, that's the homework. Hopefully, you've already done it. In episode 389, that was about the last lease ever. I break down the simple goal numbers for you because I want you guys to have clarity and confidence, not the confusion and the myths that are out there. These numbers, these are the real numbers people are using to buy a home. The money that you're going to need to buy a home, what they call the money you need to bring to the table, and that's referring to the closing table. That's where you sign all your documents, and then you get the keys to a house. That money that you need to bring to the closing table, it consists of your down payment plus your closing costs. I know you've never done this before, but it's almost exactly the same thing as when you bring in your first and your last and your security payment when you're getting a lease. You bring in the money, you sign some stuff, and then you get the keys. So in the last lease ever, I break down a very simple and a very conservative and overestimated number that you can use so at least you can have a general idea of a starting point. That number is 8% of your purchase price. 8% of the price of the home that you want to buy. So obviously, of course, first you got to figure out that price, and that price can be figured out with you and your unicorn team and your discovery call. Or if you want to, just go to Zillow or Redfin and take a look at the areas where you want to buy a home and then look at the recent closed sales, and that can be your target number. Then you do some math. You're going to take 8% of that price. And that breaks down to this. It's a 5% down payment, a very common down payment used by first-time home buyers for decades. And yes, even here in the post-pandemic era, despite the general public having apparently no knowledge on the subject. 5%, that's your down payment. And then you add 3% to that for what they're going to call your closing costs. Now, those closing costs could be a lot less than 3%, but again, I want to give you a conservative formula so that we can be as transparent and real as possible. Now, the full formula is broken down for you in the details of the playbook episodes, 388 and 389. Again, the ones you should have already listened to, but we'll put them in the show notes for you anyway. Okay, so how's that work then? All right, on a $400,000 home, 8% of $400,000 is $32,000. That's what you need to bring to the closing table and get your keys. But please, homies, please hear this. If $400,000 is your price and $32,000 is your 8% number, and you currently only have $10,000 saved, and it's going to take you another 2 years to save the other $22,000. Hell, I don't care. Even if you're only going to need 6 months to hit that 8% number, that is not your reason to wait to get your guides and start your plan. You don't wait. Please. I said it before, I'll say it again. This is what I would tell my sister in Missouri if she bothered to call her brother for advice. Waiting until you think that you have enough saved till you've hit a right target number, unfortunately, that can cost you tens, possibly hundreds of thousands of dollars. Do not save up, get your number, Don't wait to talk to the pros until you get that 8%. And a unicorn team can show you the options that can be considerably, I mean, drastically lower than the amount that you think that you need to become a homeowner, even lower than the 8% that I gave you. Remember, that's a conservative, overestimated number. There's tons of options that could lower that. There are 0 down payment options, 3% down payment loans, 3.5% down FHA loans. And in fact, that 3.5% down payment loan, that's the loan that the majority of the thousands of first-time home buyers that I have served and coached over the last 20 years, that's the one they're using, and in all different kinds of markets. There are down payment assistance programs that could drop your percentage by a ton. There are grants out there. There are options that you could get credits from the seller. They can come back to you and cover your closing costs as much as up to 3%. And there are even more options out there that you can find with the right team that will lower that 8% estimated number. You could get it as low as 5%, maybe even just 3% of the purchase price. And sometimes, I've seen people only need 1% of the purchase price of the home that they're buying that covers their full down payment and closing costs when they have all these options utilized. So to demonstrate some of the options available to you, let's hear from real renters and what it costs them to become homeowners and get their keys. First up, we'll hear from one of my favorite interviews that just got done recently. It's episode 399. This is Nick.
And then when it came to the table, I'm like, okay, we're probably gonna have to bring a lot to the table. I'm overestimating. And Brian was like, Nick, I don't think you're gonna have to bring a whole lot at all. And then he was like, bring like $4,000. And I was like, really? He was like, $4,000, that's it. And I was, okay. And so we get there at the table, I bring the $4,000 check. And then before we leave, they give me a check back for like 300 and some change. And I was like, oh snap. So I really didn't even need the $4,000.
Nick's the best. And there are over 100 real-life interviews that we have in the podcast library, and you're going to find several different examples of how people bought a home and what they needed to bring to the closing table. And a lot of times they were shocked when they discovered how little they actually had to bring in to get their keys. In fact, check out these numbers from Rosie. This is a single mom who bought a home in New York. Wow. Yeah. And then how much was the down payment assistance grant for?
The down payment assistance grant gave me, I put down 5%. So whatever that is, 16 something at the 339 price. They gave me enough for the 20%. So they put in 15%. Yeah. I put 5%. And with the grant, and then Sony May, which is also through the state, I was eligible for something else. So with that assistance and everything, I was taken care of completely.
So how about that one? That's a single mom. She put some work in, and she had her unicorn team help her find loans and grants and programs that were available for first-time home buyers. And she got granted an entire 20% down payment. Homies, I'm telling you, the options are sitting out there, but you're never going to know if you don't hire the right team to help you find them. Here's another example. This is Stephanie from episode 189. Now, Stephanie thought that they needed to save 30% down because that's what a so-called real estate professional told her. But she ended up with a much, much better number for her down payment. Listen to this one.
So 2 years ago, we did have some debt, right? We had student loan debt. We had some credit cards, we had auto loans, kind of the very, I don't know if we want to call it regular, but a lot of people have this experience where they have those types of debts.
It's regular. It's in America and Canada, it's regular. So don't worry about it. No need to quantify.
Yes. So, we had debt. We also had low credit score and just the uneducated portion of what that really meant for us. They don't teach it in school. We didn't really keep up with it. And then when we went to look at it, we were like, whoops, we really let that go and are not prepared. Another thing that we experienced 2 years ago is the market was very, very different. People were putting in cash offers, way over market price. And we were trying to use my VA loan. I spent 8 years in the Army. And we were very excited to be able to leverage that in our experience. And then we connected with a realtor, just a guy that we reached out to him. We're like, hey, I think we're ready to buy a house, or we want to start to plan. Can I talk to you? He got on the phone with us and said, hey, you don't make enough money. You need to put at least 30% down. And also nobody's taking a VA home loan right now. So don't even think about using that. So we were very, very discouraged with all of those things. And, we thought we just had so much work to do to try and save up 30%. We didn't have 30% in the bank. We didn't have the income for it. My husband as well, he's an entrepreneur. And we had to prove his income in a way that we weren't prepared to do 2 years ago. So that was a big, big awakening for us.
Okay, I have lots of questions about that, but the first thing probably the listeners want to know is, okay, 2 years ago you thought it was 30%. What did you end up putting down for this purchase?
We put nothing down.
Say that again?
We put nothing down. We put nothing down.
2 years ago, somebody told you had to have 30%, and now you did it for nothing. I want to reiterate to everybody, when did you guys close?
We closed in December.
Well, that's a hell of a story. I mean, they straight up got lied to when a realtor told them that they couldn't use the VA loan and they needed 30% for a down payment. So the moral of that story is, instead of Googling any old realtor or lender, do your research, vet the people, find a unicorn type specialist. You want a first-time homebuyer specialist who can give you the correct answers. And most importantly, also open the doors to options that you didn't even know existed. I can tell you right now that most of you can buy a home using that conservative 8% number that I gave you. But for most of you, that's going to be your maximum. I mean, if you want to get your exact numbers, just jump back to step 2. Get your guides and ask them to show you all the options. You're going to have way more than you can find online, or definitely with the 87% of realtors out there that are undertrained and clueless about your options. So get custom, personal, and clear answers. Now, here's another example that comes from Mitchell and Allison. They were a podcast this year, episode 358. Do you mind if I ask you how old you guys are?
No, not at all. I am 24. Allison is 22.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we beat that what is it, 38 years old?
Yeah, you crushed it.
I was listening to the podcast for 4 days straight at work, and all the episodes just made me believe that we could buy a house. I didn't think that we were ready because we only had like $22,000 saved up. That's it. And we only wanted to use half of that for the house because obviously we wanted like extra left over for the house and for ourselves. But after listening to the podcast, I was like, yeah, maybe we can do this. And then I reached out to you after 4 days of listening to the podcast. I got an email back that same night, like an hour later. And then 3 hours after that, you found Jen for us. So within like 4 hours, we had a realtor. 4 days, we had a realtor. And 2 months later, we have a house. So it's awesome.
And I haven't even asked, an investment. That means you had to put a huge down payment down, he asked sarcastically, right?
Yeah, not exactly. No, we put 5% down, similar to a lot of other first-time home buyers. And we ended up with the property that we fell in love with. I believe our total closing was like $11,000.
It was almost $12,000.
Almost $12,000.
So
yeah.
We were like right on the money. We had some left over. We only wanted to spend like $10,000, which was a little bit over that, but we still had $10,000 left over, which was perfect. A little over $10,000. We had like $12,000 left over.
You guys brought $12,000 in, and you own that place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which is crazy because it's so accessible. Like, people don't think that they could buy a house. They're like, no, I'll just stay renting because buying a house, like, that costs too much. But it's honestly like so much easier than people make it out to be. You don't need like $100,000, you just need not a good housing market, but you need a decent priced house and just some money saved, and you can do it.
You guys are investors now. How does that feel? Do you wake up? Do you feel different? Like I'm a big fancy pants?
Yeah, the fanciest
awesome.
pants. Yeah,
it's awesome. Sometimes we'll just be like, we own this duplex just randomly.
Yeah, just
because it's still like crazy. We own a duplex and we're landlords and have tenants.
Yeah, before we even moved in, we were landlords, and I mean that's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's right. So you went from, were you guys both renting before you purchased the home?
We both lived with our parents.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I paid my parents rent. She didn't pay any rent, so she went from paying no rent to now, owning
Having
a duplex.
Yeah.
Wait, Allison, did you ever pay rent, or did you always?
No, never paid rent a day in my life. But yeah, now I have a mortgage payment. Went from no rent to mortgage payment.
Half a mortgage payment.
Yeah, not even half.
Oh man, I hope you heard all that. Just incredible. My favorite part was at the beginning when they said, I didn't think that we were ready because we only had $22,000 saved up. Yet we found out at the end of the story, they only needed half of that to buy a home. And now Allison, who has never had to rent a day in her life because she's only 22 years old, instead of being a renter, she turned into a person who owns a home and is a landlord for the other unit in the duplex. And it was only half the money they thought they needed once they got the right answers. Moving on, we're going to get some lessons and options from Sam. You said that you were so excited about working with Ann because you didn't feel pressure. Tell me what you just told me, what Ann, your unicorn, did when you guys were looking for homes.
She would see us trying to justify certain things, and she would just be like, "You're not putting an offer in this house. This isn't right for you."
Yeah. So you're forcing it. I think you're trying to force it.
So it didn't feel like Ann was trying to pay her mortgage with you guys getting a mortgage.
No. And with all the questions and everything we asked, she deserved every cent that she got.
That's another one that has some killer tips in it. I mean, not only did their unicorn realtor help them discover all their options and show them that the real far lower number that they truly needed was much more attainable than they thought, she also protected them from the deals that would have been money pits. The advocate, the protector, such a huge part of what a unicorn does. And if you do want to hear the full story, get all the details, we'll put all these in the show notes for every interview that I mention. I know that some of you today came here hoping that you were going to get that exact savings number. I get it. I love people who are super precise. I mean, maybe you're one of those extremely analytical types and you look at every single decision on a spreadsheet and you wanted the episode to give you the exact number that you can punch in so you could calculate those absolute precise savings and you could create a plan exactly based on the numbers. Well, bad news and good news. The bad news is you're not going to get it because anyone who gives you an exact number is selling you something. I cannot give you an exact number. Hell, ethically, I won't do that. That's pretty much why I gave you the 8% as a conservative guesstimate. Because anyone who gives you a definitive answer without talking to you for 30 minutes or an hour, listening, hearing, understanding, having a caring and empathetic conversation with you about everything in your life, your family's goals, your hopes, your dreams, your debts, your assets, your salary, your debt to income ratio, possible potential promotions that might be coming in the future. What about your future family plans? Maybe you've got specific things you want to do for your pets. Maybe you've got overtime and 100 other different things in your life. Anyone who doesn't listen to all that is not giving you a number that's helping you to design the best plan for you to save the most money in this gigantic purchase. Not to mention, if I'm talking to you right now, I have no idea where you are and what potential might happen for you in your neighborhood. I don't have a clue about what's going on with sellers in your market. Maybe there are credits happening in your area that could change your number, that 8%, that guesstimate. You could get a 1, 2, or full 3% credit that could completely change and drop how much you need to save to buy for a home. And the good news for all the precise people, I've given all you Captain Von Anal exact number types someone to rage against. It's me, because I'm going to say the words right now that you probably hate. How much do you need to save? It depends. I don't know your exact number. I don't even know your best number because it truly depends on all that stuff, you and your full picture. It depends on what down payment, what assistance, and what credit options are available to you. So if you're mad at me now and you're one of those exact spreadsheet nerds, first of all, I say nerds lovingly. I'm a nerd too. Think of it this way. As a fellow nerd, I'll talk to you in stuff you understand. Math, $400,000. Using the general conservative 8% number, you got $32,000 punched in your target goal savings number. That's a good number, but it's not exactly right because you haven't talked to a first-time homebuyer, realtor, and lender, someone who's totally active in the market, first-time homebuyer specialist. And so that means you could have no clue that perhaps you qualify for a 3% down payment. that instantly is going to change your number by a full 2%. 3% for down payment instead of 5%, and 3% for your closing costs, total of 6%, which is only $24,000 instead of $32,000. And who knows, maybe in your area, the sellers are giving credits back to buyers to make deals happen. That could take you down another $5,000 or $10,000. So that could put you at $19,000 or $14,000. That changes everything. Math. Okay, so I am goofing off and roasting and having a little fun with the mathematical hardcore spreadsheet folks. But that's because there are different mathematical possibilities. I want you to make sure that you understand, don't look for that exact number. Let me reiterate. All those numbers I just gave you right there, that's literally one of hundreds of different possibilities that could change your formula. I could go on and on with different mathematical possibilities, but instead, let me just reiterate this one thing, this one fact that is not spoken enough to everybody that's trying to buy a home. When it comes to the math, it depends. And you just can't Google it. I seriously wish that you could. That's why I'm here. This is my mission as an empathetic advocate for you. I know that it's going to be frustrating and that you can't get an exact number when you're trying to figure out what to save. But it's not nearly as frustrating as the life that I have chosen, where I come here on the daily and I hear from renters who tell me, damn it, Sidoni, I wish I figured this out earlier. I had no clue what all my options were. I was saving on my own, and when I finally connected with somebody, I found out that I could have stopped renting years ago. That is truly frustrating. So I'm here because I'm Captain Positive and I want to change it. So when I say it depends, don't angrily throw your ear pods against the wall. Remember, I'm saying this with love. I've already told you I've dedicated my life to this right now, and I'm leading a revolution of hope. So in fact, it depends shouldn't enrage you. It should give you hope. It should encourage you. What it's saying is it depends, and you probably have something better. It should let you know that you likely have a more advantageous option out there. In fact, tons of different options that you didn't even know about, things you didn't dream were possible. So from here on out, when I say it depends, that's a message of hope. Okay, we're going to move on to answer your next question. I hear this one a lot. How much salary, what income do I need to make in order to buy a home? And the answer, it depends. Okay, who kind of hates me a little bit right now? So, of course, why does this depend? Why can't I just tell you make $100,000, you can buy this much of a house? Because the salary question, those answers change daily. Yeah, you heard me, daily. Because interest rates is a big variable in the formula of how much you can buy. And interest rates change multiple times a day. And the price of the home, that's going to be part of your equation as well. That could fluctuate by tens of thousands of dollars, depending on dozens of factors, things that you might be looking at. So calculating the answer to how much salary do I need, it is, I don't know, what's the opposite of an exact science? Oh, inexact science. Whew, I'm a genius. It's not even close to exact. Then, of course, your personal calculations need to take into account your debt to income ratio, your savings, and of course, your personal financial and savings goals. Once again, throwing it all off. So ignore everything that says, if you make $100,000, you can afford this much house. Ignore all of that. It's clickbait nonsense from someone looking to sell you, not educate you. I really do wish that I could give you an app where you could just punch in your information and get the correct answer. Nobody wants this process to be easier for you than I do. So I don't tell this to you. I'm not bringing this out as part of my coaching to discourage you. I coach this because I know, I am positive, thanks to 6 years of talking to first-time homebuyers all across the country, that most of you are unfortunately making buying a home much more complex than it truly is. And you're looking for those simple, put it in a box, easy answers. And what those miss is that you have tons of options. So once again, I say this with nothing but hope. It always depends on you and the market that you're in and a whole bunch of other stuff. It depends on credit score, how much debt you've got, how much salary is needed, how much of a down payment works in your area, how much to save. All of that depends. Here's a real life example for you. This snippet is a story of an actual engineer, not the train kind, the other kind, the ones that are just really exact, the kind that hates when they hear someone say it depends. But Soon, this engineer learned that he could find hope instead of ambiguity. I thought his brain was going to explode when we started trying to embrace the concept that calculating his numbers was going to be when we were looking for options. And when I told him, hey, nothing is exact. Eventually, Jake discovered that the saving estimate could vary tens of thousands of dollars, totally different depending on the different options, and he should get ready to adjust and then learn how to be, wait for it,
get on with it,
flexible. Estimates and flexibility. Dirty words for engineers. Here's what Jake had to say.
On the financial side, was this something, I know you said you got out of school and you were thinking about this. Have you been prepping this for a while, or were you surprised at what you could afford? Some people think they've got to put 20% down. Where was your headspace coming in?
I guess with that one too, that was one of the, maybe not pitfalls, but so I put 5% down. And I was like worried about, well, do I need to try to put more down to get less interest over the life of the loan, this, that, and another. And the lender actually helped a lot because he was like, don't stress between 5 to 7 to 8%, or unless you go up to like the next 10%, then just don't worry about it. Let's stay with the 5 and move on kind of deal, which was good to hear because I guess I was losing sleep over it or like trying to find the perfect number to put down. And he was like, put the 5 and you got a good deal. Let's move on.
And for those of you thinking, well, that sounds awesome, but dude, I don't have 10% or 5%. I maybe have 1% saved. Well, first of all, that could be enough for you because it depends. Second, there's a tool that many of you might have at your disposal. Now, this tool, this technique, it's something that some of us out here, I've been talking about all the time, and it has, unfortunately, an unjust negative reputation. But hear me out on this. You ready? This is something that can work for you. You can use your 401k or other retirement plan, pull money from that for a one-time, no-penalty, non-taxable event if you use those funds for the purchase of a primary residence. Who thinks I'm a scumbag realtor just trying to screw your entire financial future just to make a sale? Well, once again, I want you to know I understand. I know why a lot of people feel that way. And truly, it depresses me how many non-professionals out there, people who don't care about the plight of first-time homebuyers in this market, are putting that negative connotation on this particular tool and technique. They're giving incomplete advice on how to best get truly financially free from people who are living in the real world right now paying high rents. Once again, my buddy Math would humbly like you to explore this option. Just explore. And then once you've done that, you can make your own truly informed decision. Listen to what conclusions Stephanie came to. This is from episode 113. Stephanie is a Gen X, intelligent, and freaking on-the-ball woman. And she came to this decision for her own future using our friend Math.
Yeah, one revelation was I was listening to one of your episodes and I knew, because I'm a single person, that I would probably need to borrow from my 401k to make a down payment, which a lot of people tell you not to do. And I knew that I would have to do that. And it gave me some hesitation, like it kind of gave me a little anxiety. And again, milestone age, you know.
Yeah, I understand. I got you beat, I'm sure.
I don't know about that. One of the things you said is you have to think of it as diversifying your investments. And that really made a lot of sense to me because I could, keep socking money away into my 401k and look at the number and be all proud, but I would still be renting and that rent would still go up. So it made a lot of sense to me, especially how I could also recalibrate my contributions so that I'm not, putting my entire paycheck into my mortgage. So all of that was like, wow, I didn't even think of it that way. So it made me feel a lot better about, the direction I was going in.
So something to think about. Not something I'm saying you have to do, just something to think about. Using some of your retirement funds or changing how much you contribute into your future savings plans. You got those monthly contributions, maybe adjusting those might make the new payment a little easier. Those are just a couple of the myriad of options that you can get, so much more than you would get by just punching some numbers into a form or an app. Stephanie learned that using the 401k for a down payment was definitely not reckless for her. She figured out it's not taking away from what she was doing or withdrawing from her future. Rather, it was simply a diversification of her retirement portfolio. If you want more details on this, it's there in the show notes, episode 75. I think it's episode 58 and 22 as well. Also, it's in a whole bunch of interviews, not just Stephanie. A lot of people talked about this. As a matter of fact, here's another one right now.
My story starts like many success stories, and that is with a breakup. We did have plans to move in together in October, which is why my lease ends when it does, is that was our plan. And he decided he wanted to unsubscribe. And this is the sweetest lemonade I have ever made out of lemons. Some girls get a haircut. I bought a home.
What was your down payment? Did you do a big one or?
No, I did a tiny down payment of 3%. Isn't
Wow.
that amazing? And like, that was one of my biggest misconceptions, I guess, was the 20% down payment. And what is so silly about that is that I actually have bought a home before, but I was married and it was several years ago. So on paper, I'm actually considered a first-time home buyer, but I'm like a second first-time home buyer. So, you would think that I would know and remember that you don't have to pay 20% down, but it's just one of those things that I think it's kind of drilled into our heads and people say it and we forget that you don't have to do that. What was really a nice surprise for me was that original cash to close that I was given way back like 2 months ago, it really did go down after like seller credits, and I got a nice little $3,000 credit from the lender, and like just little stuff like that kind of chipped away at it. So it ended up being much less than I originally anticipated.
Talk to us about the credits. So the lender, was that just like a happy bonus thing because they liked you?
Yeah, I like to think that.
Yeah.
No, I think what was really great about this, and like one of the tips that I would say to people, is shopping your lenders, because you're not just shopping for a loan. Like you say, it's not Amazon, right? Like there are so many different products and different lenders offer different products. So I had read about some first-time homebuyer programs in my state and in my county and was able to ask about those. But I also had these awesome lenders doing the homework for me and then coming back and saying, this is what we can offer you based on your financials and where you're buying and that sort of thing. So yeah, that was a nice little surprise.
Just amazing information in this one. I love that she talked about Zillow realtors giving her terrible advice. She also mentioned that shopping interest rates and lenders is not like shopping on Amazon. There's so much good stuff in this interview. This one and all the interviews are in the show notes. So go ahead, listen to real people, not salespeople. Here are the tips that might be just like you. Okay, getting into the nitty gritty of the whole financially preparing to buy a home. This is so important that I dropped a 7-part series way back in 2019. This was a big part of when I built the podcast. You can listen to it, but if you do, again, cut me some slack. I was a rookie podcaster back then. The quality is bad and the jokes are worse. But the content in there, it's legit. And you can be confident in the coaching because I'm still preaching it 6 years later. It all starts at episode 19, 7 episodes, and the link's in your show notes, financially preparing for how to buy your home. I'll give you some quick highlights here. The biggest thing that you got to do right away is pick a budget that fits your lifestyle. And then, we already talked about it, automate. Make the habit happen so you don't have to think about it. There's a ton of different ways that you can budget. In a lot of old episodes, I've talked about the 70-10-10-10 rule. Concept comes from a great little read called The Richest Man in Babylon. It's actually a very super simple concept. You live on 70% of the income. You put 10% to savings, you put 10% to investing, and 10% to charity. It's not for everyone, but if you can make it work for you, that's a way to adjust your spending and start your saving. There's another formula that has been around, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 years. It was originally created by NerdWallet, and it was totally designed for millennials who were like, dude, I don't want to have all my money when I'm old. I want to do cool stuff when I'm young and travel and live my life. So they created one that says 50% needs, 30% wants, and 20% goes to your savings and you repaying your debt. Which one's best? I don't know, because the best budget for you is a budget that you will actually do. So truly, it's completely your call. You do you. And if you want some help with it, episode 371 breaks down the top budgeting apps for first-time homebuyers specifically in 2025. And episode 381, that's got tips for saving money while you're in debt. I know that post-pandemic especially, saving money has been pretty darn tough. You know, unless you've got a rich, eccentric uncle with tens of thousands that he's just waiting to give to you. If you're trying to buy a house, you got to start saving today. I'm not saying deprive yourself. I'm helping you to hopefully see the big picture and get on the solution side of things. It's really not difficult to get started. Do a small amount and just automate it. Now, if you're wondering how much I believe in these actions, no matter how small that you do, are going to be the difference in your life. I'm talking these small actions are going to change things for you in a big way. I believe it, but you got to start to do it. I believe in it so much. Check out the title of episode 168. It's called Get Off Your Ass. I still own getoffourass.org because I want people to get into it, because this is not just a guy talking in a microphone. This is a big tip on how to make a difference in your life. So don't just listen, take action. I told you it could be super small, $25 a week or a month, or, you know, if you can, $250 or $1,000. I don't care what it is. Just take some action today. Automate it. The thing about automating savings is there's zero downside to having some savings. No matter what you decide to do with it in the future, I don't care if you don't buy a house and you buy a van and decide to just live in the van. Cool. Now you have a savings account to help you do that sooner. But if you are someone trying to buy a home, here's a great story on what you can do with a savings plan and how quickly you can stop renting forever. This is episode 194 with Jacob.
So basically my wife and I looked, and we had been basically saving around $1,000 a month without major changes to our spending budget, because we don't have children. So that's a big, plus as far as saving money goes. And we do want children, but we also don't want children in the 800 square foot apartment that we were living in. So we wanted to move and upgrade to somewhere where we could grow into it.
Back in, December of 2022, you sent me this note. You said, I don't think I have access to all the tools I need to be successful with a first-time home buying purchase. Would you be willing to help us obtain the right information to be successful? So, give us the scoop. Did we do that for you?
100%. I mean, it was not only quick, it was easy, and all the tools were in front of me in what felt like 24 hours. Like it was unbelievable.
Wow. Oh, holy crap. Hey, everybody. I didn't pay him to say that. We talked for about 8 seconds before I started recording. So that's awesome. Well, Jacob came to us in December of 2022, and he closed on a home. Get ready to celebrate, everybody. He closed on 4/20. You heard that right. And of 2023. So it took him 4 months. Now, when Jacob came to us, he was currently renting at $1,500 a month. Had about $1,000 a month in debt that you were paying at that time, or payments, or like monthly bills, I should say.
Something of the sort, yeah.
Okay. Now, is this right? When in December, and you closed in April, in December, you at that point had $2,100 saved?
Yes. Actually, in August, I had a talk with my wife, and I said, what are we doing? We were living paycheck to paycheck for no reason. We weren't saving any money at all. We literally couldn't go somewhere our friends invited us to because we could not afford it. And so from August to, I guess probably September to December, we were able to save $2,100.
I love the possibilities that story tells us. They only had $2,100 saved in December, and they were living paycheck to paycheck, and they had no family to help them out, no one to gift them any funds, no 401k they could pull from, but they managed to build a savings plan with the guidance of the experienced pros, and $2,100 in December turned into being under contract in March and getting a home in April, starting with only $2,100. That's incredible. And it's because you don't know what you don't know. The options are different for everybody. And when you're teamed with the right unicorn, boom, maybe 4 months and you're in a home just like them. The next tip comes from a very sharp woman. I had the pleasure of interviewing Joelle. She's just awesome, super smart gal. I hear all the time from aspiring buyers that they are just freaked out and they don't want to be house poor. So they save and save and save and save and save so they can put as much money into it. Now, when it comes to being house poor, dude, I'm with you. Good. Nobody wants to be house poor. I completely support that. I empathize and I absolutely don't dismiss it. But to counter the fear of house poor, the thing I like to do is give you the reality. And we're not going to spout platitudes and theories. Listen to how Joelle and her mother came to reframe the math behind the house poor issue.
Yeah, the stability and knowing that the rent would be the same. So my landlord had been talking about selling the place, which would change all of this math, right? And that wouldn't be in my control because so many of them wanted to offload it. So like, you end up being in a spot where you're like watching your landlord's life. Like, are they getting a divorce? Will it sell? What's happening? Like, okay, I need to get out of that and have more control over what's going on. And then also a big part too is coming to terms. This is the emotional part again. Coming to terms with the fact that I was using that gap between like what was coming in and what was going out for rent to save. Like most of that went to savings. And I was having a conversation with my parents and my mom was like, well, you don't have to worry about not having that much, the same level of buffer anymore, because this is the thing you were saving for. Like you were putting away for this. So if you have this, you may not need to save to the same level as quickly. Like you can take your time with certain things or make adjustments. And that was like, oh yeah, like this is the thing. You don't save to save, you save for a reason. And this was my reason. And I just was hesitant to get out of that mindset.
Joelle mentioned that she felt like she had no control over her own living situation. And as an adult, that feeling sucks because you're a tenant and you really have no control. And when she finally moved on from the bad advice that she got, and she did some deeper research here on the podcast, she got the math. She figured out that saving and also creating a rent replacement strategy at the same time, instead of just trying to save for a 30% down payment, things shifted to her for a 0 down payment. So that meant she could get control much sooner. And that was very important to her. You gotta love mom. I mean, she's sitting there seeing her child freak out. And what'd she do? She brought the math. When her daughter said that she didn't want the higher mortgage option with the low down payment, mom calmly explained, well, this is what you're saving for. Mom knew that a home is a forced savings account. Oh, and speaking of parents, let me tell you about a really cool bonus savings tip. Now, it might involve your parents or it could even involve your friends. But there's a $6,000 tip for something that you can do at the end of your lease. And it's all in episode 239 with Isaiah. I'm not going to go and find it and play it for you. It's just a $6,000 tip and it blew my mind. And no, the tip isn't just asking your friends or family for $6,000. It's thinking outside the box. Check out 239. We're going to put it in the show notes. All right. I know we're getting into another epic episode. I told you I'm not going to do these in 5-minute chunks, but these first 5 episodes are really important. And I've saved some really good nuggets for the end of this one. This next one comes from an interview that is a straight up classic. It's so poignant that I named it Achieving the American Dream. And I did that in a completely non-ironic, non-hyperbolic way. This is the story of Sally, and she genuinely is the American dream. It's from episode 161, My Gal Sally. Love her. Wait till you hear what happened. This is gold.
I took that little break because of the fear that I was still feeling. But if it wasn't for that, I feel like I would have closed during the summer. And honestly, I wouldn't have to go through all the trouble with renewing my lease and all of that. But yeah, it was kind of crazy, the interest rates and all of that. I think that was one of the things that was also kind of like holding me back. But like I said, we reached out to Tara. She answered all the questions. I connected with Ashley again. She was like, you can do this. Like, here's the scenarios. This is what you need to do. And it was like, okay, let's do it.
Wait, Ashley was saying you can do this?
Yeah, pretty much everybody.
Do they listen to the podcast?
Tara, Ashley. I was the only one who was thinking like, I don't know, I don't think this is possible, because you still have that little voice in your head, because there's so much miseducation and miscommunication out there. I grew up thinking like buying a house is just for like the rich people. It's not something that everybody can do. And boy, I was so wrong.
Wow. Okay. Hang on a second. I need to talk to all my video editors and anybody else. Save that last 20 seconds. That was it. That's amazing. Okay. So everybody wants to know what got you over the fears?
I think, like I said, that reassuring and that support from everybody. You with the email follow-ups and text messages, Tara answering all of my questions, Ashley running like 1,000 scenarios that I was asking her for. It was just that reassurance from everybody, and just not allowing that little voice that I was talking about earlier, just, take over. That was pretty much what got me through it.
That's incredible. And what's so neat to hear about all of that is that it sounds like you were presented options that you didn't know about, because everything out there is so confusing. But when you had a team of people answering your specific questions, and that was cool. You said Ashley was the lender unicorn.
Yeah.
Through Tara, and you had that full support team. But she was running different scenarios with you, because as the market changed, I'm assuming pricing and everything changed. That's cool.
Yeah, and it was pretty much my husband and I, because we bought together. He is a self-employed person, so I was worried about his situation, because we had moved to Florida from Chicago, so he was kind of like starting from scratch, building his clientele here. So it's like, well, he's not making enough money. I do make good money, but it's only me. Maybe that is not going to be enough. We have great credit score. We're good savers, but I do have student loan debt, which is small. Actually, it's not that big of, it's like, 30K, but I was worried about it. I was like, okay, how does my student loans impact my approval odds and everything? Like, how much money do we need to save? Because you have this whole like 20% down that you keep hearing about. So I was like, well, by the time we save that 20%, for the house price that we're looking at right now, we're not going to be able to afford it still, because, prices keep just going up. So it was like all of that misinformation that I had. I didn't know much about the PMI and all of that. So that's why I was thinking like, this is not possible. And Ashley was excellent in running everything and telling me like, well, if you use your 401k savings, if you take a loan, this is how much you need for the down payment. If you buy a house for this price or this price or this price, then she was the one telling me like, you can afford this price. And I was like, whoa, really? Like, I have no idea. So yeah, all of that whole process was so, I don't know, I can't even describe it. It was so amazing, to have that reassurance that, yes, you can do this. And you're completely wrong about thinking that you can't afford it,
You're not wrong. You just didn't know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I don't know how to fix a carburetor, but if you show me, maybe I can,
Yeah, exactly.
That I was just cracking up that you're like 5 podcast topics. I'm like, oh my gosh, don't need 20% down, renewing your lease, student loans.
Those are pretty much all of the podcast episodes that I really listened to. Because I gotta be honest, I didn't listen to the whole thing. But because I feel that you should listen to a few episodes and you have all the information that you need. I obviously recommend everybody to continue to listen to everything. But I went immediately to the episodes that I wanted to know the most about, which was like, debt and the down payment and PMI and renting versus buying. Because I was crazy thinking that renting was better than owning. I was one of those people. So I listened to those specific episodes and it was so helpful.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, especially now, we're changing things for 2023 because I'm like, geez, I'm at 160 episodes or something right now. And it's like, that's why I went back and redid one of the early ones. And I said, pick the ones that matter to you,
Yeah, exactly. I remember listening to that and I was like, okay, I don't need to listen to this from episode 1. Let me just go into the descriptions and I listened to the ones that I really needed or felt that I needed to listen to, and it was super helpful.
Started with only $5,000 saved up. And then with only $23,000, she bought a $348,000 home. And I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, can I do that? Is that how much I need? I don't know. Maybe. It was for her and her options. And the funny thing is, in that interview, she tells us that she tried once before and that she bailed out on that deal. And then she got scared. And she re-signed her lease in the summer of 2023. Then, as it got into fall, she started reevaluating and thinking and rethinking. And then she reached out and, wait a minute, did she break the lease? Does that math ever work? Spoiler alert, it totally did. And if you're thinking, well, that was 2023, man. Come on, interest rates were different. Actually, if you study the history, when Sally bought a home, it's when the interest rates were the highest they've been in 30 years. Like, picture a mountain. She bought it at the very top of the mountain. That was back October 2023. So these concepts, they're workable in every single market. And in late 2025 and going into 26, these tips are more valuable than ever to help you find your own personal affordability. And for those of you that still feel like saving for a down payment will mean that you have to miss out on adventures and experience in the prime young years of your life, rad. I'm totally with you. That's why I started this whole thing. So you don't have to live an either or life. It's not one or the other. It's both and. Follow the system and the programs and then go ahead, do whatever you want with your life. But most importantly, if you don't do them, you won't wake up one day and have your options. You won't be able to discover that you can do this for way less than you thought you needed to save. And if you start to plan, you get the benefits of the time as a homeowner, because the longer you own, the more your wealth grows. And if you're really concerned about being house poor, get the math so you can lower things to the minimum it takes for you to get into a home and keep a bunch of cash. Or you can do what Sally and her hubby did. What they did was pretty cool. And it might actually even change your answer to that 3% savings for closing costs. You might decide to save a little bit more. Here's why.
Ever since I started the process, I went into super savings mode. Actually, I didn't want to spend a penny. No, we're not traveling. No, we're not doing this because we're buying a house. After we buy a house, we can do whatever. And that's essentially what we did pretty much. So I did save a lot. I was preparing myself for the mortgage payment. I really didn't need to save that much because, like I said, Ashley helped me a lot with the numbers, and I knew right there and then that it would be fine. Going into it, the transition wouldn't be too difficult or anything. But I did went into super savings mode because I just wanted to be safe. I'm like, I really want this to happen. I don't want anything to mess it up. So yeah, I saved a lot, and pretty much the day we closed, we went on a shopping spree for the house. Pretty much buy a bunch of things for the house. I traveled to Spain in the last 2 weeks. So it's we have our house now. We have a bunch of house projects that we want to do, which is going to be super fun. But we're in that place where we know what our expenses are, and we can now, travel and do more fun stuff.
You know what's crazy about that part of Sally's story? People hear that and think, oh, God, what a great story. It's so emotional. It makes me want to buy. You know what I hear? I hear math. That's what I hear. I hear math. Once she had the math of her custom and personal plan on her savings, then she added her own non-negotiable extras to her equation so she could feel safe enough to buy a home, buy furniture, and travel to Spain. All right, that's steps 1 through 5, and these are the foundations. And I guarantee you the next 5 steps are going to go much quicker than these first 5. They're going to be a lot shorter. Now, the reason I do that is for your benefit, and that's because the real estate industry has done you dirty. And it is not serving up the much more crucial part of buying a home. And too many buyers waste valuable time researching how to get the best interest rate or how to inspect a home or how to negotiate a contract when there are much more advantageous, both financially and emotionally, crucial steps, things that could help move them forward. And they're all here in the first 5 steps. That's why I went so in depth. So now these last 5 steps, 6 through 10, you're going to feel like you're on the backside of the mountain. It's going to go quick. And when you're done, you're going to have earned your home buying doctorate like Dr. Kendall. And you're going to be ready to become a first-time home buyer. Now, if you're picking up what I'm putting down and this all makes sense to you and you want to jumpstart with your own unicorn team, rad. Go to howtobuyahome.com right now, ask for a team, and you can get your team and work with those pros while you still binge everything here. So work with a pro and do your own education at the same time. Because the unicorns know that when you reach out to them, you might not be ready to buy right now. And they're totally not going to force it on you. In fact, they're going to ask you to step back and work your plan first. They want to make sure you understand the math so that you get the best options for maximum buying power. And I've been in the studio here like crazy for the last couple of days recording all this stuff for you. So if you like what you're hearing, please take a second to write a quick review on Apple or Spotify. I love the stars, but please, 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 if you can take 90 seconds and write something, it really helps out a lot. It helps other people find us. And if you have friends that you think would benefit from this stuff too, then just click that little box with a triangle on it and text it to them right now. Share the link to the show to all your friends. And you can always go to howtobuyahome.com and ask David and just hit me up with a question because I'm here for you. Told you guys, you've been getting shade for way too long. I know you're hearing encouragement from me, but here's a little encouragement from Dr. Kendall.
We were just so shocked at the immediate peace we felt once we moved into our own home. I mean, I know there's fear too. There's fear around things, but there has just been such an immense peace and a settledness that feels really good.
Or, as Sally said,
I was downstairs one Saturday and I ran upstairs. I don't know. I was going to pick up something. And while I was running upstairs, I told myself out loud, oh my God, I own a house. And I just kept running. It was like out of the blue. It was that awesome feeling that, you know, you just like really realize that, oh, like this is mine.
Yes, Sally. Oh, you did it. Oh, and for the rest of you, you can do this.
Looking for more DIY education or your own personal step-by-step guidance through the home buying journey? Since 2019, How to Buy a Home has been the #1 resource for first-time home buyers. So visit howtobuyahome.com to get started.